Hi friends, it's Renee with Domestic Machine Sewing, where I sew purses, bags, backpacks, wallets, anything with vinyl or leather or any fabric, and I show you the things I've learned to be able to sew it on a domestic machine. I don't have an industrial machine, and just the tips and tricks that I do to make it work. I don't know it all, but I'll just share with you the things I've learned. Anyway, I am going on a trip Wednesday, so this will probably be my only video, but I may do a little video on our vacation to show you where we are. But so I wanted to get a video in, and I wanted to make myself a small crossbody iPhone bag, and I didn't want to buy another pattern, so I'm creating it myself as I go. So you get to go along with me in the process. So what I've done so far, let me show you. I'm getting also my stash that I've had in vinyl that I have not used all of it up, and I only have a little bit left. So I got this piece, 2 pieces for the front and back, and I cut out 1 inch for to block my corners. And I'm doing waterproof vinyl for the lining. And what else? Oh, I'm doing brown for a front pocket, and then I'm going to do a flap. A black flap over it. So that's going to look, hopefully, turn out something like this on the front with the flap over it. Let me move that up a little bit. So I wanted a small one. I have lots of crossbodies because y'all know I like crossbodies better than any bag. But I don't want a big one because it gets heavy. I pack everything in a big one and it hurts my shoulder. So I thought I'm just going to make a simple iPhone crossbody with where it'll fit my phone, it'll fit some lipstick, it'll fit some credit cards and driver's license, and I'll be good to go. Okay, so let me show you where I am now. I am getting to the pocket, the front pocket, where I sewed that across the top and across the bottom, adding the right sides together with the waterproof canvas for my front pocket. And so it made it a little bit thinner, which I didn't take into consideration when I cut it, I guess. So I'm not worried about it. I'm going to tape it down because it will get caught in the seam allowance, because I'm going to do a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and it looks like it's just a 1/4 inch on the inside. So let's sew this down. Actually, I need to top stitch this. So I'm going to top stitch this. So y'all are going to see my thinking process and the steps that we try and remember as we go along. So let me move you down. And I'm going to top stitch this. I put brown thread in my bobbin. In my top. And I'm leaving the black thread in the bobbin. I'm going to turn it to a 4. I've decreased my pressure on my presser foot because you have to do that with vinyl. I've been sewing a quilt. I'll show you that in the next video. But so you don't have to have as much, you have to have more pressure with a quilt because it's thinner fabric. So you want to decrease your pressure on your presser foot and make sure you have your Teflon foot on. Okay, here we go. And did I tell you number 4 stitch length? I'm going to back stitch, and I'm doing about a 1/4 inch instead of an 1/8 top stitch. And I'm going to do a 1/4 inch across the top. Back, oops, went way off. I'm going to go over this. That's going to be in the seam, so I'm not going to worry about it. Trim my threads. This is just going to be a front slip pocket on the front. Trying to put it together. I was dreaming about this last night, how I could make a pattern, and then I started drawing a pattern. I thought, oh, I'm just going to do it as I go. So I'm going to put this, sew this on the front of my bag, and I measured this one a line of how far down I want it, because I want to have a 1/2 inch seam allowance on the top. So I'm going to place it in the center. I should have marked that. I'm just going to make a little fold so I'll know where the center is to match it up with this other center. And this is heat erasable ink. And I'm just going to do a top stitch down each side just to hold it in place, and across the bottom. Maybe I'll do across the bottom first. I'm just going to do a double, leave that top stitch I already did, and then I'm going to do an 1/8 of an inch attaching it. Top stitch, back stitch, so that's attached, and now I got double lines at the bottom, and now I'm just going to do a little basting stitch on the very edge, 1/8 of an inch, to hold it in place. Back stitch. Now let's do the other one. Other side. Trim your threads, trim your threads. Okay, so that's the front. Now let's do the zipper. So I took one of my waterproof linings, and I marked how far down I wanted it on there, and now I need to do my zipper hole pocket. Trace that out. So I made this on a previous video, and it's that Dollar Tree cutting mat, and I'm just going to line it up in the center. I marked it, my center of this zipper part. I'm going to line it up with the center of this. And you know what? What I should have done is draw a line how far down I want it. I am going to draw a line right here, as soon as I find my ruler, about a 1/2 inch down. That's where I want to put the top of the zipper part. This is as you go pattern. We'll see if it turns out. So I'm going to put the top of my hole right there, and now I'm just going to draw, and we're doing it on the wrong side of the pocket because we're going to flip it back out, and we want the right side to be on the inside. This is moving. Let me get this up here off the crack. That right there. Okay, so now we want to draw down the center of our pocket. This is a 5 inch width on the pocket of the hole of the zipper. So, and it's 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to do 1/8 of an inch down the center line. Draw my center line for my zipper. Oh goodness, I keep going over this thing right here. Need a solid surface. I'm not drawing my line to the end. You can, but I leave room to make my triangle. Just eyeballing. And then we're going to sew around here, around the rectangle, and I'm going to switch back to my black thread. We've had a lot of rain the past couple of days, and looks like we're going to get some more this afternoon. It's getting dark as it is as I speak right now. Today is Prime Day with Amazon, and so this one guy that I follow that helps out with what you need to do good equipment to do YouTube videos. I'm buying a little bit at a time. Said check out Prime Day, and he recommended this ring light that was cheap, so I hopped on it. And so my lighting should get better no matter what time of day I'm recording. And remember, I told you in my last video, go get you a pack of these. It's a needle threader. You stick it through the eye of the needle. It's got a little hook on the end. I do it with the hook facing down. And you wrap your thread around it and pull it through with the hook. Well, of course it's going to do this on camera. There we go. I think I got a 10 pack because they're cheap little plastic things. I think some of them got broken in the shipping because they weren't put in a box or anything. Okay, we're going to sew around here. I'm going to change my stitch length back to a 2.5. Back stitch. Okay, I need to check my pressure on my presser foot. That's better. That's a constant adjustment. And I had to switch from when I was doing a quilt to lighter pressure on my presser foot because it'll get stuck if you're doing vinyl, if you got too much. Back stitch. Okay, trim our threads. It's your typical zipper pocket, and I'm going to cut down the center now, and I'm going to use my fabric scissors. I'm going to fold it in half, line up the lines, and just do a little snip to get me started. Open it back up and cut down the center to your triangle, to the point of your triangle. And then you take the triangle and you cut to the corners, not cutting your threads, of course. And then we're going to tuck this through. And I just did one piece for the zipper because I'm going to fold it up. Make it simple. So you put this through, and I'm going to iron it. I didn't line my pocket piece interface. I probably should have because it's a little thin. Anyways, it's just as you go. This is a pattern as you go, creating it as you go. I was thinking about it all day yesterday, dreaming about it, how I could put it together. I initially wanted to do card slots, and I thought, no, I'm not gonna go to that trouble. I have a little card wallet that I did on my embroidery machine. It's in the hoop. I thought I'll just carry that. So I'm trying not to iron this part, the back part of your waterproof canvas, because it'll stick. So if I could just get this going right here on the corners, I'll turn it over this way and pull it through. I like it when a little bit of the fabric shows on the zipper, so that didn't bother me a bit. On the zipper hole, I guess you could say. Now let me take it back here and do this. Okay, there's my pocket pushed to the back and ironed. Now I gotta find a zipper. Trying to use my scraps, so see what kind of scrap zipper I got. I don't have any matching. I may use an unmatching one. A non-matching one just to get rid of some zippers. Because I mainly use Zipper by the Yard, and before I used Zipper by the Yard, I was using, ordering them from zipit.com on Etsy. So all I have is navy. I got a blue, I got a navy blue, I got a green. What else do I have? Another blue, another blue. Oh, do I have any whites? I do not. So, what's it gonna be? I think I'll use this navy blue right here. It's kind of dark, closer to the black. And it's a number 3 zipper, it's not a number 5. Yes, they're super long. So I move it down a little bit to get away from the teeth right there. And I sew across the top just to make sure to secure it. Don't take the zipper tab off of it or pull. 2.5 just to sew across, back stitch. I go back and forth a couple of times, actually probably more than a couple of times. And then I like having my zippers go to the end on my lining. It makes it easier for me to put them together. So I'm going to cut it right there, but before I do, I'm going to go back and forth across to secure it. Then I'm going to cut it. Throw the rest away, and there's our zipper. And I'm going to put it where it's left to right. So you put it on backwards. And I want to make sure that where I sewed it is not showing. So I'm going to get my double-sided tape, and I'm going to tape it down on each end, and then I'm going to sew around. And I'm going to use my Dollar Tree tape because this is not going to be in the sewing part. I'm just going to cut a piece. Hold it down. Cut another piece. Hold it down. And now, clear everything out of the way. And I just finagle it where it's centered. A lot of people put double-sided tape there. I just don't want to sew on double-sided tape, so I just make sure it's centered well as I'm sewing along, and then I come across the bottom. And I don't start at the end. I leave that and I start about here. So I'm going to switch to red thread just because I know I'm not very good at keeping my line straight around my zipper part. So it's always good to have matching thread. Hide the imperfections. We try to hide the imperfections on everything, don't we? Our face, our sewing. There's my little zipper foot. There it is. So I hope to get this loaded today. Today is Monday, the 22nd. Nope, 21st. Is that right? Because I thought yesterday was the 21st, and that's the summer solstice. Maybe today is the summer solstice, but they were saying yesterday. I need to double check that. But today's Monday. Okay, so now I need to rethread my red thread. This thread's a little bright, but it matches. I thought it was the Gutermann, but it's not. It's the Sewology from Hobby Lobby. Get the Gutermann. I'm leaving my black thread in the bobbin and just putting this on the top. Whoops. Okay, let's see if I can thread it without my little needle threader. Ah, thank you. It went in there without using my needle threader. Okay, so I'm going to start right about there, as close to the edge as I can, making sure my zipper is lined up, and just take it slow. I'm keeping it at 2.5. Keep your needle down, pivot, and I'm going to go back once and come again. Needle down, pivot, and then I move this up to make sure it's lined up as much as the other one. Needle down, move your zipper, pull, needle down, pivot, go back again, needle down, pivot, and we're coming to the end. I go a little bit past it, back stitch. So there's that. Okay, so now all we have to do is fold this up. I'm obviously not going to turn it out the pocket. I'm going to turn it the other way. I guess I'll do a drop in. So I'm going to take this tape off. I don't need it anymore. I'm going to measure these at the top of the zipper. Oh, I didn't leave much space to do the top. That's going to be tricky. I should have done a little more. Again, it's as you go, just making it up as you go. Probably not the best thing, but I'm just trying to get her done because I've got to get other things done. Okay, so we're going to turn this over and sew around the edges. It's going to be tight, but we can do it. I think I might leave the zipper foot on. So I can get a thin mark here. A thin seam allowance. Put a little more pressure on the presser foot. So as I get up here, this is when it gets tricky. to the back stitch in a minute. And turn. I just got a little seam I got to go down to put it together, but we can do it. There, that wasn't too bad. Move your lining out of the way. Back stitch, and it's done. And now I'm going to trim the edges. So I'm going to use my vinyl scissors because it cuts better than my paper scissors through these zippers. So I sewed just around here because it's already done on the bottom, and there's your zipper pocket. Okay, so that's the inside. So now let's sew the front together. I won't put the flap on yet. Oh, you know what I should have done? That was my snap I'm doing. So I want to do a snap or a turn lock. I think a snap. So let me get my little snaps out. I can put my zipper template away. If you have a cutting machine, this is a great thing to do. That way you don't have to pay a fortune for zipper templates. Okay, I'm just going to get one of these. Silver ones. I'm going to need that, so I'll leave that out. Okay, we're going to do this with it on, so it's hard for me to get these things apart when they're stuck together. Don't want to mess up my nails. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to put the female on the back and the male on the front flap. So I'm just going to measure this, and then I can measure the flap. It's pretty long. I'm just going to sew, I may do 2 flaps together. I think I'll do that. And I can just put it on the back. Let's see. We got to do seam allowance for drop in. If I put it like that, then like that. If I give myself a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then a seam allowance here, so it probably should go right about there. Okay, make an imprint. I'm going to measure across to make it centered. And I'm going to use chalk for this because on vinyl I have found this does heat erase the ink color, but it leaves the mark. So I don't want to leave a mark. So I'm going to use my little chalk dispenser roller thing. So that's 6 1/2, so that's going to be 3 1/4. I'm going to put a little line there. Okay, so now I take the washer, and the hole to the washer I put in the center of the cross I made. And then I draw the lines. And I am going to use this pen because you can get thinner in there. And I'm going to be cutting that anyway. So now then I take my little sharp Fiskars thing, knife, and I poke through. So then I put the the female part of the snap right through it. Yes, you're going to see the back, but I'm not worried about it because it's for me. I should have done it beforehand. So then I'm putting this over it. I'm not going to reinforcement because we got vinyl and waterproof canvas. That's pretty thick. But I do want to do a piece of tape over this. I think I'm going to use my, what am I going to use? I think I'll use my duct tape. It's kind of gray, since it's gray. That goes with black and red, right? And remember, this is for me, so I didn't feel like making a pattern or buying a pattern, so I am creating it as I go. Just knowing certain things I wanted. I may cut that down just a hair and put it over it. And then, because the duct tape is kind of thin, I think I'm going to put a piece of Duckaville Light over it. Iron that on. Let me get a piece of Duckaville. Square it off as much as possible here. And I'm going to iron this on over the tape. That may not make sense, but I just want it to be where I don't keep hitting my fingers or pulling on it. Okay, let's iron this baby on. Keeping your vinyl out of the way. You just want to iron onto your waterproof canvas. A little tricky. Let's see if I got it good. I think I got it good. Okay, so there's my front snap. Now, let's see. What should I do next? Should I put the flap on? Let's sew them together at least anyway. Let's go ahead and sew the flaps together. Okay, so the way I do my strap, and this is from a scrap that I had a long time ago. This is very cheap vinyl that I got from Walmart before I found out about all the great vinyl suppliers online. And so I just cut out a 2-inch length. I put double-sided tape, basting tape down the center, and then I folded these in, and I'm going to fold it in again. I'm making a super thin strap because I want a super thin strap. I don't want a wide strap. So that's how I'm going to do my strap, and I'm going to sew down one side top stitch and sew down the other top stitch, and I'll show you when I finish. Okay, there's my strap. It's sewed pretty well. Very thin strap. So we're going to put that to the side for now. Okay, so we're going to put right sides together. These are cut the same, so I'm not going to worry about clipping them. And I'm going to leave a little opening at the top so I can pull it through. And I'm going to do, turn off one of my lights here, about a 1/4 inch seam allowance and 2.5 stitch length. Back stitch on each end. I'm going to trim the corners, but don't cut the thread. Got your threads too. Now let's turn it out. A little tricky with it being thin width-wise. This is, what's it called? Dimple black vinyl. I think it's called Dimple black vinyl from My Punt Broderie. And I sewed several little bags, stadium bags, when you could carry in, didn't have to be see-through, but it had to be a certain size, a small size. So I made a bunch of those out of this, and this is what I have left over, just a little bit. So why not use it? Let me get my little pokers. Try this one first. Get out as much as possible, and then I'll use the pointier, is that a word? Pointier edges. There we go. Let's see. Yep, maybe a little bit more on this end. Kind of roll it in that corner to get out. This has a little bit dull edge. This is a little bit more pointy, but it's still not real sharp. Excuse me. Okay, so let's top stitch this. I'm going to turn it to a 4. I gotta get some water. I got a tickle in my throat. Excuse me, just a minute. Okay, now I'm going to do 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, 4 length, back stitch. Let's see, do I want to, I'll figure that out when I go. So let's go ahead and top stitch. I should call this pattern Figure It Out As You Go. Should roll this a little bit more. Back stitch. Now, I think we're going to sew it like that and then it over, and that will hide. So we're going to top stitch it here, and then it'll fold over this way and it'll hide the seam. So do I want to do that now or later? That's the question. I think I'll do it later. Let's put our front pieces together, our front and back pieces together on the outer. So you're going to put right sides together. And I am going to clip this. I do need to add the other part to this. I'm just going to try and decide where I want to add it once I get the front and back sewn together. Great way to try new things. Get your scrap fabric out, but you have just a little bit left over, and see what you can make. Zipper pouches are always something you can do. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to sew in the L part of my corners, because that's where I box it. I'm just going to sew down one side, across the bottom, and sew down the other. I'm going to turn it back to a 2.5. I'm going to do a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, back stitch, let me see if I caught, whoops, throwing things everywhere. I think that's pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to do it on this end. Oops, forgot the back stitch. Oh, all right. Start this all over again. Okay, now back stitch. It gets a little thick on the pocket part, but you can do it. Now I'm going to sew the bottom. And now I'm going to box my corners. So I just stick my hand in there and match up the seams. So you can take the seams and go like this, and then I fold one to one side and one to the other. You could fillet it open, the seams open. That might be better today because this vinyl's kind of thickish, but I don't want to do that. I'm just going to do one on one side, one on the other. Spread it out, match your seams in the center again. Work it. And I'm going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Keep it at 2.5. Back stitch. Trim your threads. And do the other side. You trim those threads. Okay, 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, let's turn this out and see how we did. I'm not trimming any off because it's a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Threads, threads everywhere. Okay. Not bad, not bad. See if I can stick my other hand in there. I guess I can't. And get those corners poked out. There we go. That's going to be cute. Okay, so let's do the same to our lining. Take our lining pieces. Now I'm not going to sew across all the way across the bottom. I'm only going to sew a little bit in. maybe a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch in, so I'll have room to turn it. In fact, let's see, that's going to be a little space. That's going to be challenging to turn it, but we can do it. We can do it. Well, I'm going to clip this real quick. We're going to do the same thing. Sew it the same way we did the outer pieces. Put some of these clips away, taking up my space. So this room has been a mess. I have not wanted to come in. Certainly didn't want to film. I think I filmed when it was a huge mess because we were painting our room and we had stuff stuffed in here and we had stuff stuffed in the hallway from our bedroom so we could paint it. Okay, I'm going to keep it at 2.5. I'm still going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Back stitch. I need to move the zipper out of the way, the zipper tab. Move it to the center. Okay. Back stitch. Now let's do this side. I hope everyone had a good Father's Day. I know it can be heart-wrenching for some of us that have lost our fathers. I'm fortunate, my husband's fortunate. We still have both our parents living. Now let's do across the bottom, not across, just a little bit. I'm going to see if I can get away with a 1/2 inch. Back stitch. Do it on this side. I'm going to flip it over because I don't feel like moving my back stitch. Hopefully we can turn it out without ripping those. Hopefully, keyword. Okay. Get some of these threads here. It's past lunchtime. I'm getting hungry, so let's hurry this up, right? Okay, we need to box our corners. Got a thread. Same way, box your corners the same way. You can push the little ends together to get the center, and then just, I like pulling it apart to get it straight across. And then line up the centers. Make sure they're lined up. Put a little clip. And I'm going to do the same on the other. Gosh, I thought I clipped all the threads. They just appear. Can't get rid of those threads. I'm going to turn it the same way on the bottom so it will sew. When I sew it closed, it'll sew the same. You see what I'm saying? The top, you know how I do one side, one seam allowance this way and one seam allowance that way? Well, I'm making sure these are the same direction so when I have to sew it closed after I pull the bag through, it will look nice. It'll sew easy. Okay. So I'm still going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Back stitch on each end. Do the other side. Okay, let's see. We want to put right sides together. So we're going to drop in the outer piece to the inner on the lining. And I want my zipper pocket to be in the back, so I'm putting the front pocket in the front. I think I need to put my flap on before I do that though. Okay, so let's put the flap on. I can put the snap on afterwards because I want to see how I want where the other part of the snap's going to go. So let's go ahead and sew. Let's get the one that looks the best. Our strap on, and you're just going to find the centers, and I'm just going to do a little fold since I didn't clip it and match it up with the one I did clip. Actually, it didn't stay, so let's do a little mock. There we go. So I'm just going to line it up, put a couple of clips, and I'm just going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now, I'm not a pattern writer. I'm just, you know, make it up as you go. So if y'all are like, oh, she needs more than 1/4 inch, but I'm going to top stitch around it too. So make sure your front of your bag's out of the way, tucked under, so you don't sew it. And we're going to do 2.5 still. Back stitch. I need to lessen the pressure on the presser foot because this is getting pretty thick. It's just adjustments we have to make. Back stitch. Trim the threads. Trim, trim, trim. Okay, there's our flap, and it's going to go over like that. Cute. So far cute. Okay, oh, you know what though? I need to think about connecting the strap. Getting the order out of the way. So I need to put my D-rings on. Let me get my little D-rings. Tiny one. What's the tiniest ones I have? I think that's it. I'm going to go with silver. And I don't really have a tiny crossbody strap. And then I'm going to use these tiny little lobster clips. So I think all those will work. Yep, I think all those will work. So I need to make a D-ring connector though. So let me pause you for a second and make those. So I put one strap on, D-ring connector, not strap, but D-ring connector. And I got the other one together. And let me show you my process. So I had to figure out, it had to be small because I don't want it in the seam allowance up here and I don't want it in my pocket. So I had to make it really tiny. So I just took a piece, it's about 2 inches, 2.5 inches. I think this was 2 inches, 2 inches, and then 1.5 widthwise. And I marked down the center and put a piece of double-sided tape. And you just fold one, y'all know how to do this. And then one side into the center and the other side to the center. And then you stitch down this side and stitch down this side. And then what I did is I halved it, marked my half. And then I folded it in and folded it in like that. I fold this in, I fold this in together. You put your D-ring, say this is the D-ring, and you put your D-ring on, and then you fold it together like that. And what I did is I put a little piece of double-sided tape there, and then once I got it folded in together, I put another double-sided tape so I could sew it. And then sew across here, then up this way, up this way. So I'll show you that part. So I got to this part where I put my double-sided tape to hold it together onto the bag. Really tricky when it's this tiny. I measure it right above, in the center, right above the pocket. I'm eyeballing it. You have it really kind of a center because you sew those 2 lines on the outside of the center. So I'm going to put it there. And then you have to move this out of the way and straighten it out. And so I'm sewing across first, and make sure you don't have the other side of the bag in it. It's a mess because I'm a mess. Make sure I'm center again. I'm centering the D-ring connector to the center seam allowance, the seam on the side. And I'm going to use a 2.5 stitch length. Back stitch, back stitch. Now I had to lessen the pressure on my presser foot because it's pretty thick. So that's the top line, and now I'm going to do the bottom one. Make sure everything's out of the way, straighten it out, and stitch, back stitch, back stitch. Now I'm going to come up and clip my threads. I'm going to come up and sew it. Come up from the bottom and sew one line here, and come up from the bottom and sew another line there. And making sure my back of my bag is out of it. Just sewing the, oh, I need to get my needle up higher. Okay, this is, bend it over. There we go. Now let's see if I can get underneath. And I'm going to come up on one side as far as I can. Back stitch, keeping it at a 2.5 on one side, and I'm going to move over to the other. Not very neat. It's not bad. I don't think anyone's going to notice with the dimples. So, got my D-ring connectors on. So we're good to put the bag together now. So now you put the right sides together. Make sure your flaps tuck down in there. And I want my zipper pocket again on the back, so I'm putting the front of my bag where the zipper is not. Zipper pocket is not. You tuck it down in there as much as you can. Got a thread there. I am really missing some threads today. I like to clip them as you go. Make sure you put your D-ring down because you've only got a little tiny bit to put the seams together. So I put the side seams together. This is going to be tricky right there for sure. So I'm going to put one seam going one way and one seam going the other instead of filleting them open. I'm going to put a clip there. Then I'm going to come around to this seam with my D-ring tucked down in there as far as I can. You know what? I'm going to tuck the top part down as far as I can. That might help. And put a clip to hold it down. Tricky, tricky, tricky. Okay, now we line up all these pieces and clip them. I clip the centers. I'm going to put a few here. That's bending. No wonder that didn't feel right. Okay, now we got it. I'm just working it around. Make sure it's even, no wrinkles. Put as many clips as you need. Now I need to work this one down, tucking and pulling. So I'm going to do a 1/4 inch seam around the top, and so that'll at least give me a 1/4 inch or I can top stitch. So I think the easiest way is to do it from the inner. I'm going to leave it at 2.5. I'm going to start on the back part. I should put my clips the other way. And I'm going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Back stitch. Take your time. I gotta get this right, or I won't be able to pull it out and top stitch it. Because it's very thin where the D-ring connectors are. Very thin space to sew a seam and top stitch. Okay, here we go over the sides. Move that out of the way. Can y'all see that? Roll it over. Keeping this out of the way. Coming to the other side, roll it over. I'll be tickled pink when this turns out. Make it up as you go. Coming around to the other side, where we started, back stitch. Okay, now we gotta turn it out. That's gonna be trying through this little hole, but we can do it. And it may rip a little bit, but that's okay. The lining may rip a little bit. So I'm gonna pull, try and get it started. There we go. Oh, not as bad as I thought so far. Get the flap out. Look at there, look at there. And I hope I don't get it all turned out and realize I missed something here. Poke your corners out. I don't think I really need to use my poker. And tuck it in, but before I tuck it in, I'm going to sew it closed. I'm going to change my thread to a red so it won't be so obvious. Move it over. We're almost done. We got to do the strap, top stitch and strap, and we're done. I will do all my measurements, if I can remember them correctly, in the description in case you all want to make yourself one. It's pretty simple. I just didn't want to buy another pattern. Just didn't. The next pattern I'm going to buy is I haven't decided which one yet. It's either going to be the Billy Nifty, is that what it is? Zip around wallet, or the classic zip around wallet by, I can't remember who that was by, but for the boutique I want to do something like that, and I can do it in pretty vinyl. I got some pretty vinyl in. I'll show it to you when I do that wallet, but that will be next week because we're leaving Wednesday to go on vacation. Okay, this is a little tricky here because you don't have the tuck in like you normally do when you pull it. So you're just going to have to tuck it in a little bit. I'm going to iron it just to help me out here to get it going on each side. letting out some steam. That's going to be tricky. Not going to look too good at the bottom. We'll see. It's okay. This is for me. It's really a quick sew. Not bad at all. Once I figured out the size, and I'm just going to sew all the way across the bottom because I had such a thin seam allowance to turn it out. Just gotta make sure your corners are out. Hopefully it'll work. I'm gonna do a 2.5 stitch length and back stitch. Get my corner out here. Trim your thread. Okay, so let's tuck it in. Tuck the lining in. Not bad for no pattern. I like brown and black together. I like black and white together. I like brown and white together. And cork. Brown cork's pretty. Okay. It's still a little bumpy at the bottom. Let me pull this up a little bit and get it even up top, so we can top stitch. Gotta give me room on the sides to top stitch. Here we go. Put a little clip there. I am very excited about this. I think I can do a little better there. So I gotta change my thread back. Make sure it's all tucked down in there. So let me change my thread. It's just one of those things you have to do. I know a lot of people just use one color thread, but I am not that good at top stitching. So we like to hide a multitude of sins there. Let me wind this up a little bit. Got stretched. Don't want to waste that much thread. On the home stretch, I can't wait to see. I also have to add the snap, the other snap to the flap. I just wanted to see how if I'm going to put thick things in here, I want to make sure I have enough strap to cover over everything. Let's without my needle threaders. Come on now. There we go. Okay. Now, what do I have in the bottom? I think I have black. I have black. Okay, we're good. I'm going to start the back flap, and you want your flap up so you can top stitch here, and you got to make sure that this does not get in when you're sewing across here, and the same when you go across the front. That's the tricky part with these small purses. Okay, I'm going to do 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm going to put it at a 4, and let's rock and roll. Back stitch, let's turn it, keeping the front out of it, turn it a little bit, straighten it back up. Coming to the strap part where the D-ring is. Scary, but we can do it. I'm going to pull the D-ring back a little bit to keep it where my presser foot can go through it. All right, that was easy. Straighten up, make sure nothing's in the way. Straighten it again, make sure the back's out of the way. I'm almost done with top stitching. See if I can go a little bit further. Now let's turn this a little bit. Making sure everything's out of the way. Pull the D-ring back. Make sure everything's tucked out of the way. And we are done top stitching. Woo! Breathe, breathe, breathe. Oh, I should have changed it to a red thread. Oh well. It's for me. Do I have any skip stitches? I don't think so. So there's my top stitching. Now I need to put something in there to see where I want to do my snap. I'll put my lipstick holder and this down in there. Oh yeah. Plenty of room. Just don't want anybody sticking their hand down in there. I can put my phone there and then my little essentials there. Okay, so let's see. I think I'm going to do it here. That's really a long strap. Oh well. I think I'm going to do it right there because it gives it tight enough across here where people can't get in there, but not pulling it. And put a little mark right there. Take the stuff out of it. Now I need to measure, make sure I have it centered. So it's almost 3. Well, that's perfect. So now I'm going to take my washer put it over it. Make my marks. Get my little cutting scissors. And cut those lines. I should have done it before all that, because now it's going to show. But what I can do, how can I hide that? Oh, I'll just glue a piece of black over it. Oh, wait a minute. What am I doing? Shouldn't have done that. It's only supposed to be in the back. Like that. So it's going to show on the front. Okay, I can finagle something. Yes. Should have thought about that a little more. I know y'all probably already thought about it. So Renee's going to show on the front. But it's okay. It is going to be okay. For one, this is for me. And for two, I can sew a little decorative patch or something on them around it. You know, that little added character to the bag. Added design. Okay, so that's going to go like that. Now, got to figure out how am I going to hide that. Let me think about that. I do want to put some tape over this. I don't want a big piece because I don't want it to show through my design here. Trim it up. My trash is right here. That's still kind of big. Learn as we go. Okay. So now I covered that, and I'm going to make cut out a piece of something to make it a decorative over it so you won't see it, and I'll just glue it on. So now let's do our strap. Put some things away here. Where's my strap? Okay, so I don't have a small crossbody. What do you call these things? Sliders. So you go up one. So I'm just going to use what I have on hand. So you go up one side, down the other, and I like to stitch that. I'm going to turn it to a 2.5. I'm going to stitch across first. I'm going to do another stitch across closer up. Trim those threads, and then you can burn off the little other pieces. And then I'm going to go up one side and up the other. Now on the other side. Okay, that should be secure in place. Those are driving me crazy, those little threads. I need to get some new scissors. So I'm just going to burn these off gently. Little sticking up little threads. It's getting windy outside. Now I'm going to do the other side. There we go. Okay. So I did that. Now, got that on there. You take your strap, make sure it's straight, and you're going back up through the side that's got where you sewed. So you go up through there. Oh wait, before I do that, I got to put on my lobster clip. So you put the lobster clasp down, and then you put it up through here, and go back down the other side. Come on now. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, so this is what we have so far. And I'm going to go back down the other side, making sure my strap is staying straight. I see some threads I need to burn. Like right there and right there. Okay, so I'll pull this down, and so you have that part like that. And now all we do is sew the other lobster clip on the other side. Again, we just go across. I'm leaving it at 2.5. Move it up a little bit and do another one. Straight across. Turn it over and trim those threads. Yeah, it's time for me to get the new scissors out. I do have some on hand. I'm just going to sew a straight line up and back. Other side. Up and back. Let's get these threads off of there without burning the vinyl. Key. Without catching the house on fire. Okay. Did that. Now we're just going to connect it to our D-rings. And let me pull you up here. Okay friends, I finished it. I put a little decorative strap across here to hide the snap, so you can do it when you make mistakes. And there's my snap. Got a little slip pocket. It's got a little zipper pocket on the inside, even though it's navy blue. Let me unzip that thing so y'all can see. And so I can put my phone in here, my lipstick, credit cards. I can put down the zipper pocket. Or I can put, I have a little card holder I did in my embroidery hoop. So there's my little crossbody. I'll try and remember to put all the dimensions down. So if you want to make it and measure it yourself and have one, very simple, very easy sew. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate if you give me a thumbs up, and if you like this video and you want to see more, that you would subscribe. And if you want to be notified when I put up my next video, just click that bell. Y'all have a great week.